I strongly suspect that the upcoming September sweeps are not just going to neatly tie up the current lingering storylines. They are going to detonate the entire board and leave us picking up the shattered pieces in a way we never anticipated. Let us talk about that highly debated USB drive. Brick handed Carly a literal digital Pandora's box filled with supposedly incriminating evidence against Valentine. Initially, it seemed like Carly was simply going to keep it as a strategic backup plan, a safety net safely tucked away in case her unexpected romance with Valentine went sideways. But this is where it gets incredibly interesting. I suspect that her conscious decision to leave that drive unopened and unexamined is the single most dangerous choice she could have possibly made. In this environment, ignorance is never bliss. It is a massive, glaring liability that leaves you entirely exposed to the fallout. By choosing not to look, she is allowing a bomb to tick right under her own roof. If we really analyze Carly's psychological state right now, she is operating under the comforting assumption that whatever Brick managed to dig up is just standard, shady Valentine behavior, the usual corporate espionage or old intelligence agency double crosses that she thinks she can handle. But what if the contents of that tiny drive go far beyond his usual machination? I strongly suspect the information on that USB might directly implicate people Carly actually trusts and cares about. If Carly eventually plugs that drive into a computer and discovers Valentine has been hiding something catastrophically serious, perhaps something tied to the recent dangers her own children face, the fallout will not just be a dramatic breakup. She will not simply cut Valentine out of her life. She will go on an absolute warpath, aggressively investigating every single person who might be connected to the lie. Think about the massive ripple effect this could generate across the entire canvas. If that USB holds devastating secrets about the recent island hostage situation, the cold fusion cover-up, or even the whereabouts of missing individuals, it could drag half the town down into the mud. I honestly think we should not underestimate this little piece of plastic for a single second. It possesses the raw potential to rock the entire community to its very core. Carly currently believes she holds all the power by keeping it securely in her back pocket, but in reality, she is unknowingly sitting on a live grenade. The moment she finally pulls the pin and views those files, the collateral damage will be absolutely unprecedented, destroying relationships that took years to build. Moving on to the newer, more enigmatic faces currently roaming the streets, we desperately need to talk about Hudson. The general consensus among the townsfolk is that this mysterious businessman is simply looking for Phoebe to claim his rightful paternity. But I feel like the narrative is cleverly gearing up for a massive rug-pulling misdirection. Hudson is indeed tracking Delilah and Phoebe, yes, but his underlying motives are likely far more sinister and calculated than a heartwarming, long-lost family reunion. He does not strike me as a man driven by paternal instinct or a sudden desire to be a family man. He strikes me as a man driven by leverage and a thirst for control. I highly suspect Hudson already knows significantly more than he is letting on to anyone he encounters. That intense, desperate conversation between Ethan and Ava regarding Phoebe's true parentage might have just been the final, confirming puzzle piece Hudson needed to validate his pre-existing suspicions. If Hudson discovers that Phoebe is tied to Delilah in a way that threatens certain established power structures or financial empires, his goal shifts entirely. He is not looking to be a loving father to a little girl. He is looking for the ultimate bargaining chip to force the hands of some very powerful people who would do anything to keep the past buried. This is the specific part of the narrative that genuinely worries me for the characters involved. If Hudson decides to weaponize the tightly guarded secret of Phoebe's lineage, he can exert immense suffocating pressure on Ethan, Ava, or anyone else who is currently trying to protect the child. Ava is already backed into a dangerous corner, desperately and secretly investigating the paternity herself to gain the upper hand. If Hudson manages to corner her with the undeniable truth first, he could easily force her to do his illicit bidding, turning her beloved gallery into a front for his own operation. The innocent child tragically becomes nothing more than a pawn in a much larger, darker game of extortion and control that nobody asked to play. Now, shifting gears to a deeply emotional and terrifying storyline, we absolutely must address the tragic, ticking time bomb that is Anna. She is desperately trying to project an aura of absolute strength and unwavering stability, pretending to her colleagues and loved ones that everything is perfectly fine since her return from treatment. But those terrifying, vivid hallucinations of Peter are continuing to relentlessly haunt her every waking moment, whispering poison into her ear. I do not think Anna can continue to hide her rapidly deteriorating mental state for much longer, no matter how skilled a spy she might be. The cracks in her armor are already beginning to show. In my view, Anna's heartbreaking storyline is about to violently shift from a deeply guarded, agonizing personal secret to a highly public, catastrophic problem that endangers everyone in her immediate orbit. I strongly suspect there will be a pivotal, unavoidable moment where Anna completely loses her grip on reality and loses control in a very public setting, perhaps right in the middle of the police station. Once that devastating moment happens, the carefully constructed illusion will shatter instantly. Nobody will be able to politely brush it off as her simply going through a difficult transitional phase or suffering from mild post-traumatic stress. The terrifying truth will be glaringly obvious to everyone who relies on her protection. The most terrifying aspect of Anna's rapid decline involves her ongoing friction with Britt. We know Anna is currently investigating the missing evidence and the chaotic pier shooting, and she is already pushing boundaries and asking the wrong question. If her dangerous hallucinations of Peter manipulate her mind and push her to take aggressive, perhaps even violent action against Britt, the consequences will be absolutely dire. Anna could easily cross the definitive line from a respected, authoritative investigator to a prime dangerous suspect. And honestly, the biggest, most shocking secret here is not even that Anna is profoundly unwell. It is the horrifying fact that she has miraculously managed to conceal it for this long while holding a position of such immense power and authority over the entire police force. Let us pivot to the ever-shifting, treacherous mob landscape. Right now, it looks like Drew and Ava are quietly forming a strategic alliance, aiming their sights directly at Sunny. On the surface, it seems like Sunny is being successfully played, completely oblivious to the massive targets being painted on his back by people he interacts with daily. But here is where I have to pause and play devil's advocate with my own theories. Am I giving Sunny way too much credit here? Is it possible that his recent romantic distractions, his focus on his children, and the endless family dramas have actually made him genuinely vulnerable to a coordinated, stealthy attack from within his own circle? But no, I simply cannot buy that narrative for a second. Sunny is, above all else, a legendary survivor who has outlasted countless enemies who thought they were smarter than him. I strongly suspect this entire scenario is a classic, brilliantly executed two-way trap. Sunny might have already discovered their treacherous partnership much earlier than Drew and Ava could ever possibly anticipate. Instead of launching an immediate, loud, and bloody retaliation that would draw unwanted attention, Sunny is likely playing possum. He is intentionally pretending to be completely in the dark, silently and meticulously observing their every single move to map out their entire strategy before he makes his counter move. Drew and Ava probably think their grandmaster plan is going off without a single hit. They are likely celebrating their perceived incremental victories in the shadows, completely unaware that Sunny is meticulously preparing a devastating, inescapable counterattack. And I think the biggest, most satisfying shock will come when Sunny finally decides to strike. He will not go after the obvious, heavily guarded target. He will pinpoint the absolute weakest, most vulnerable link in their fragile alliance, striking it with lethal, calculated precision, causing their entire operation to spectacularly collapse in on itself before they even realize what hit them. They are playing checkers, while Sunny has been playing chess the entire time. When you take a step back and look at all these intricate, constantly moving pieces, the unopened, dangerous USB drive, Hudson's looming threat of extortion, Anna's terrifying, mind-altering hallucinations, and Sunny's silent, calculated war, it is virtually impossible to say which one will cause the absolute biggest explosion. If I had to choose, I would not rule out any of these intense storylines serving as the main explosive catalyst for the upcoming September sweep. The entire town is currently structured like a fragile house of cards, and every single resident is hiding a joker up their sleeve. All it takes is for one single devastating secret to be flipped over, and the rest will inevitably fall in a rapid, unstoppable chain reaction. The board is set, the players are in position, and the only question left hovering in the air is who will be the very first to break under the pressure.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.